Hello, this is Tomas from the iOS team at GoodNotes, and welcome to another session of our Engineering Brownbag sessions. Today, we will have Noel from the cross-platform backend team, who will give us an introduction to contract testing using Pact. Remember that if you like what you see here, we are always hiring, so please head over to goodnotes.com/careers and find one of our current openings. So without further ado, thanks Noel for volunteering for this talk. You can start whenever you want.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Noel from the from the GoodNotes Cloud team here in GoodNotes. And I'm gonna give a brief introduction to Pact and a possible use case. So the first reason you're wondering is why to adopt Pact or any consumer-driven contract testing solution. And for us, the main reason is that we have consumers, we have providers, each of them have their own tests. You can see that as you have a server, you have a client of any kind, a web app, native app, wherever, you have them thoroughly tested, but still you find incidents because of divergences between both your consumers and your providers. That can be because the API has evolved differently than the clients. You have released a breaking change. The clients did not adapt, or maybe the other way around. Clients want to use something new that is already not available, and then that can cause you some problems in your production environments or staging or wherever. So contract testing is a tool that can help us to avoid this kind of situation. And for that, we start looking into Pact, and we started using Pact. Basically, Pact is a code-first tool for testing HTTP and even message-based integrations with systems, where you basically have a consumer, a provider that share a contract. How the flow works is that the consumer creates a contract. That contract is published to an entity, some kind of broker, that handles all the contract informations, and then the provider fetches that contract and has its own tests against that contract. That way you can independently test each other, but always against a shared contract, that is the pact. For holding this contract, we are using a tool that is called Pactflow that enables our teams to collaborate between themselves. Basically, it's a cloud system where you can push your pacts and download them. It also is very helpful because you can easily integrate your CI/CD systems in a way that, for instance, you have a new feature that you've already developed in a client, but your server is not yet ready. You might want to release that to your users without maybe realizing that that's not gonna go properly. You can, if you see here in the screenshot, we will see it later on. You can see a "Can I deploy" button that you can also call programmatically. That basically tells you if the pact between your consumer and your provider is successful, and you are free to merge that to your environment. That means that the pact has been, all consumer side tests are passing in the consumer side, and also that the provider has verified that pact. Because how the flow works with pact is that the consumer publishes the contract, and then when you run your provider test, they are run against that contract, and somehow they get verified. If all the tests in the provider side are successful, then the contract gets verified, and you are free to do wherever you want. So for this, I'm just gonna showcase a little scenario. Basically, we're gonna have a very dummy user service, a very dummy email service that they do not really do nothing. They are more like only the contract sites, but they are like in contract tests. So we are gonna have a look at how the code itself works, and also how we can write the contract test for new cases. So now I'm gonna try to share my screen again, but a different one. I don't know if I know how to, maybe here. Okay, maybe I need to share again, sorry. Okay. Can you see my editor now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So is the size font okay? Should I increase it?
It's kind of
Increase
small.
a bit, please.
Maybe, yeah, maybe a little bit.
It should be. Oh, I don't know where. Sorry. Oh, here.
Font. Yeah.
You can search the action enter
No,
presentation
it's
mode.
another one. In editor
This is
tab.
another one? Okay.
In the editor tab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's not working.
Maybe control and with mouse, scroll mouse.
Let me editor font.
You can use Command Shift Add to search the action and search for enter presentation mode.
Sorry, how?
Command Shift A and search
Yeah.
enter presentation mode.
Okay.
That one.
Now okay. It's okay now?
Yeah, good.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Sorry for the the live things. Okay, so basically here we have the consumer side tests. That basically what is happening here is you define a group of pacts basically. We are using here pact for JUnit. This is Kotlin code. And basically, you just define a new pact for each use case you want to test. For example, we want to test the pact for sending an email, the pact for getting all emails, for getting a specific mail. So, for example, if we go to the definition, you can see that we have a DSL provided by the language that these are all helpful functions, okay? But basically, you just define a few fields, you define the path, the method, how the response will be, the status response, and that way you basically build that pact that later on you will use in your test functions. For example, you have to write in the consumer side a test function for each use case you want to tell. And just with this annotation, you tell them that the provider is the mail service, the pact method is send mail pact, and the provider type is of type sync. And basically you just here, I mean, obviously in your real application code, you're gonna start your client in some kind of gateway, wherever, but here for keeping it simple, I just use a plain client here. And basically what I do is just make a post to a mock server that Pact is already giving you. So you don't even have to mock that. And that mock server will contain all the matching information that you have defined in your pacts. So as you can see here, we have all these three pacts and we have three test functions that will run. Okay, so let's try to run this.
Well, it's working. No, let me ask. The pact here, it acts as a mock, yeah? But with verification.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, clear, thanks.
Yeah, you can of course write your own assertions in the test to check that the response is okay. But here in Kotlin, as we are deserializing it with the client itself, it will fail. So you nearly don't need any kind of assertions here, right? If you just want to match your response bodies. So here you can see that all the tests passed. And this basically means that Pact has generated by ourselves a JSON file that contains all the pacts. So you're not gonna see this because I'm doing it in a in a terminal. But basically, I'm running a command for uploading the pact to our pact broker. Okay, I will share my screen later on to not mess around with the font size. But basically, what I just did was to push that JSON to the pact flow tool that I showed you earlier. So basically, we now have there the representation of the pact. Okay. So basically, the next step now is to go to our consumer side. I don't remember the name. How can I get out of the presentation? Okay, that's the presentation mode. Okay, so basically now we're going to move to the provider side. There is this, our provider is the mail service, right? So we have this mail pack test here that basically is the other side of the coin, right? If you remember, we have the consumer side of the test, and now we are in the provider side. So basically what we're going to do here is fetch the pact for the mail service. So basically with this here, you can see our host, our temporary token is going to be removed in a few minutes probably, and our provider is going to automatically fetch the token from Packflow, and is going to run all our tests again. So for that, you just need to define a test template that you stand with a particular Pact class, and you just verify an interaction for each test. So basically, here the situation is different. You're going to have, Pact will emulate a client running requests against your server, right? So basically, you need to run your server. So for this, this is a simple Cater application. I did a test function that will launch our mail service API that, as you can see, is like a very simple Cater application, like really dummy. So basically, on the before all clause of the test, you just need to make sure that, of course, I'm mocking the repositories and things, because in the contract side, we do not care a lot about that. We should have that covered with other kind of tests. And basically here, I'm starting the Cater app, and from that moment on, we can start making requests. Also, a very interesting thing is that line here that basically is setting a property in the Pact configuration to publish results true. That means that once all the tests have passed, Pact will automatically verify the contract test in the Packflow side. So let's try to run these tests and see what happens. They should all work, hopefully. Okay, they are all working. And now imagine that we want to add a new case in the client.
One question. May you please click to the button where is the green to show tests which were not passed yet, or passed yet. How they look? Oh, I see each run here. Yes.
Yeah, you see each run, and you see like it gives you information about the pact is going to be verified. It gives you like the path that is checking, the query, the matchers, everything. If the body has been okay, if the status check has been okay, it gives you like a lot of information. And sometimes even it's too much when your tests are failing. It's like sometimes kind of difficult to know the particular reason. But yeah, it gives you like an individual output per each interaction. So now, if I go back to our consumer side, imagine that we want to implement now a new pact that I have commented here. There is basically a quite common situation, right? We want to test that when a pact that is not found, we are getting a 404 error, okay? So basically, we have this pact given any query matching here, like this is the UID regex. For the previous one, we had a fixed message ID for the mail that did exist. So basically, for any other message ID, it's gonna fail. We have created a pact. We now just need to create the test case. And here you have it. Basically, I'm catching an exception and checking that the status of the response is a not found error. So let me run the tests. By running these tests, what should happen is that a new pact should get created. So I need now to run again the the Pact publish command that I told you before. So we upload the new Pact to Pact flow, because otherwise the provider will be tested against the same as previously. So now that I've just published it, let me quickly go back to here. Okay. And now what we want to do is for any email that we get, right, to our mock to return tool, to return null, sorry, we might want to modify this to make this nullable. Okay. And now we can run the test. We're gonna see it fail, obviously, but that's the main point, right? Okay. Let me do this for now. Okay. The good thing about the provider side is that, as you might have already realized, we don't need to write a new test case for each scenario. We just need to handle it with these mocks and wherever. And here you can see in the output that the previously one are green, but the new one is not passing. We should be able to check why it's not passing. Okay. It's an error getting the mail. We got the Java error of the null pointer exception, and the contract is failing probably because, okay, here you have it. The status code match has failed because we are expecting a 404, but we are sending a 500 error, okay? So what we need to do is basically refactor our code, right? And in the case of mail, being null, we're just gonna respond with HTTP not found. Okay, I don't care about that. Okay, and now if we run the test again, it should be okay. And now you can see that all tests have passed, including the 404. You can see that the interaction, the good thing about this is that like the switching context between the consumer and the provider is quite easily, and thanks to Pact Broker, you can have everything automated. And in this scenario, there is something quite possible. We would have avoided like some kind of issues in our production environments. Now, let me quickly, just to finish, share my screen with the Pact flow that I mentioned before. Can you see the Pact flow console? Okay. And here you can see that between user service, mail service, we have a Pact. You can see now that it's verified because the test has passed in the provider side, and you can view like the details of the Pact. You can view the interactions that you have, like the query expected, the expected response. So it's also it can serve as a API documentation too. So maybe if you bring access to all the team to this, and you have all of the endpoints and all of the casuistics tested, you can use this as a really good source for documentation, because it's gonna always be up to date, not like necessarily any other tools. So yeah, that's all from my side. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
No,
Thanks,
again, sorry. In this Pact web tool, can we see launches of our test, or there is only what was generated by the first consumer run?
I believe you can see the different runs based on the version. I mean, based on the tag of your Pact. But to be honest, I haven't, deeply experienced.
In any case, really cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Noel. I have another question. So you have shown here the contract test using Kotlin. Does Pact offer other bindings for other languages so that you may have the provider written in one language and the consumer in another language?
Yeah, I didn't want to use it here for keeping it simple and more time constrained. But yeah, we've been using it with Kotlin between our microservices. We've been using it also in the TypeScript side with the web client and our APIs, and it's working pretty nice. And I believe that Pact also has support for Swift, for example, if you want to use it from iOS. And the good thing is that everything comes to the same, right? You just generate a pact and you use that pact. It doesn't matter what languages are you using.
That's great. Do we have any other questions? Yes, Boba?
It would be great if you can also summarize, like, we've seen what features Pact has, but how would you recommend like integrating it to day-to-day life of engineers, depending on whether you're like more back-end focused, front-end focused?
Yeah.
Or do you find it as more like a replacement of some of the existing approaches or tools, or more like an addition on top of that?
I would say it's an addition. You obviously would still need all the kind of tests you're writing for your application. You maybe could avoid, because I guess that you might be writing some kind of end-to-end tests that are using a mocking server based on what you should expect. You could definitely replace this in the consumer side, because you can see that a mock server is auto-generated for you without having to deal with it more than writing the pact. So that's maybe a kind of test that you could replace, but it's more of an addition that should give you the safety to deploy in these kind of scenarios. And in terms of the day-to-day flow, we are still working on that, but the idea is to make it part of our CI/CD systems. So basically, through Packflow, you just publish the pact from the consumer side, and you just have to make sure in your PRs or wherever that everything, the can I deploy thing is green. If that's green, that means that you won't have any kind of conflict between your applications. So that's like the ideal point where you should aim to be. Of course, there's a pretty nice guide actually in Pact documentation about like different stages to what they consider like the Pact Valhalla in their course, not mine. So basically, you can stop at a level if you feel that that's okay for you and you don't want to invest more time. If you want to go like to the hardcore level and have like an incredible infrastructure, you can also go there, but it's like pretty scalable, all the process, and it's like very well explained. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just to add on this maybe a little bit, it would allow us to decouple client and backend deploys, right, without the fear of breaking the contract, because in this case, the backend could independently be deploying, but in pre-deploy checks, validating whether they would break any of the live clients, right? And then the same thing applies to the client, is in pre-deploy and pre-release checks, they would be validating whether the latest backend works with the contract they define and they expect. So we don't have anything like this at the moment, I believe, because usually the tests you are writing as a client, you prepare the mock for them. So you could update your mock and make your tests pass, but the reality which is deployed currently in a certain environment, like in production, might be different than your mock, because you're updating it usually together with your tests.
Yeah, here the difference is you will be, the consumer is responsible for the mock because he's the one who writes the pact. But if the server is not working according to that mock, you won't be able to merge because the pact won't be verified. You have like an extra safety net yet there.
So it seems we don't have any more questions. Again, thanks, Noel, for this talk.
Thank you.
And let's see you in the following one.
Bye-bye.